Welcome to A Leaf to Live. My name is Christina. Today I'm going to be talking to you about staying in hostels. If you've never stayed in a hostel before and want to know more about what it's like staying in a hostel, or if you want to make the most of your hostel experience, this is the video for you. I'm going to be sharing some of my tips and talking a bit about my experience staying in hostels, and hopefully you'll be able to learn something from this video. I'll be dividing the video into different sections, and I'll put the timestamps in the description below so you can click to the sections that are most relevant to you. The first section that I want to cover is why stay in hostels. So there's two main reasons why I love staying in hostels. The first and most important reason being I love traveling solo. I love traveling to different places on my own and experiencing the culture, the scenery by myself. However, I also want to share the experiences with others sometimes, and going to hostels is the best way to do this because it enables you to meet lots of different people from all over the world, like-minded travelers, and you can do things together, plan different activities. I have met incredible travel friends by staying in hostels. On my first time in Southeast Asia, I met a girl on my first night and we actually ended up traveling together for 2 weeks after that. This is the main reason why I love this type of accommodation. Another reason why I love staying in hostels is because hostels are a very budget-friendly option for accommodation. Again, if you're traveling by yourself, it's going to be way more affordable to stay in a hostel, especially if it's a shared dorm, as opposed to if you're staying in a hotel or if you're staying in an Airbnb all by yourself. However, if you're traveling as part of a large group, it might be better for you to rent a whole apartment for you to stay in as opposed to staying in a hostel. So the next section is types of hostels. There are many types of hostels out there. There can be hostels that are more party hostels, others that are quieter. It really depends on the intention of the trip or on your mood, on the vibe of the place. I've experienced all sorts of hostel living, from party hostels to more quiet places. I personally feel that it depends on how you're feeling. If you're traveling to a beach destination, we're mostly just going to be partying away and going to a big festival event or something like that. It may make more sense for you to stay in a party hostel and meet people who are there for the same reason. However, if you want to go somewhere where you want to get a good rest because you're going to be sightseeing during the whole day or hiking or something like that, you might want to choose a more quieter type of hostel. It really depends. There are all sorts of hostels out there. I suggest you do a bit of research when you look up what hostels to go to in terms of the reviews that people put online. The next part is female, male, or mixed dorms. So I've stayed in so many different hostels. I've stayed in hostels that are for female only. I've stayed in a dorm where I was the only woman, and I'm pretty sure I was the only woman in the entire hostel because I didn't see any other girls there. I've also stayed in hostels where I was actually the only guest in the entire place. So it's very varied. It obviously depends on luck, who you end up meeting, etc. But I personally really enjoy staying in mixed dorms just because you get to meet a wider variety of people and different travelers. When I first started solo traveling, I only stayed in female-only dorms just because I wasn't really sure about stuff regarding safety, but I felt very safe staying in mixed dorms. So obviously it depends on how comfortable you feel, but I think mixed dorms are a great way to meet all sorts of different people and make friends. As well as the type of hostel that you want to stay at, you can also choose what type of room you will be staying at. Most hostels will have dorm rooms, which are basically a room where there's multiple beds and you're assigned to one of those beds and you'll be sharing the room with other people. You can also have private rooms in hostels, which are basically just like a hotel room, but then you can share all the other facilities with the other guests in the hostel. I personally have never stayed in a private room. I really like staying in dorm rooms because you get to meet people through that. When it comes to dorm rooms, you can get dorms that are quite small. So that would be, for instance, sharing with another 3 people. So that would be a 4-bed dorm. You can also get 6, 8, 12, even 24 I've seen. I think they can go even higher than that. The largest dorm I perhaps stayed at was 32 people, but it was half empty, so I didn't get the full effect of the 32 people. But I did stay in a party hostel that had 24 beds, and that was pretty crammed. It really depends on the hostel. Sometimes I prefer 6 to 8 bed dorms over 4 bed dorms, just because there's more people, so there's a higher likelihood that you will connect and click more with some of those people you'll be sharing the room with, as opposed to just the 3 others if you're in a 4-bed dorm. It really depends. Sometimes if you're staying in a really large dorm, it can be very noisy because there's obviously a lot of traffic, lots of people coming in or out, but it doesn't necessarily have the case. Again, it really depends on how lucky you get. If you get great people to share the dorm with, if you get noisier people, it depends on the hostel and the people who are going to be staying there that night. Another thing with hostels is that you'll be sharing a bathroom with other people. There's also other shared facilities. Some hostels have kitchens. I really like hostels that have kitchens because it gives you the opportunity to make your own meals, and if you're on a budget, that will definitely help you stay within your budget instead of having to go out and eat out in restaurants all the time. Most of the hostels I've stayed at were in Southeast Asia. To be fair, eating out in Southeast Asia is particularly affordable, so I didn't feel the need to cook my own meals while I was staying there. And to add to that, not a lot of the places where I stayed at had communal kitchens. There were a few places that had communal fridges, and that was really useful because if I had leftover food, I could just keep it stored there and eat it later. In hostels in Europe, it's more common to have hostels just because it's more expensive to travel around Europe than in Southeast Asia. An important thing to do if you are sharing a kitchen with other travelers is that you label your food. If you put it in the fridge, label your food with your name, and most of the time it's useful to label it with the date that you will be checking out at, to just make sure that if you happen to forget your food in the fridge and people see that the date has passed, they can chuck it out, and that way the fridge doesn't start stinking up the whole place and food doesn't go bad in it. So as well as a kitchen, there are other communal spaces that you'll be sharing with fellow guests in a hostel. There can be games rooms, there can be restaurants and bars as well, and many hostels also offer activities for the travelers who are staying there. I've been to hostels that offered free city tours, others that offered free beer at 5 p.m, others that organized communal dinners, and that was really great. Another thing as well is that some hostels have laundry rooms, so you can either pay a fee and get the laundry done for you, or you can also pay another amount of money and clean your clothes yourself. When I traveled in Asia, I was washing my stuff by hand until I discovered a lot of hostels actually had this service, and they would just clean your clothes for you, actually quite at an affordable price. And it was really handy, especially if you're constantly on the go, or if you pack light like I like to do, because you don't have that many clothes, so obviously you need to keep washing your clothes quite regularly. Other things to keep in mind when staying at hostels are privacy. Obviously when you're sharing a room with other people, it's quite difficult to get the level of privacy that you would if you were to rent a separate single room by yourself. And there are hostels that offer you a little bit more privacy by having curtains that you can have in your bunk bed. I quite like those, and that can come in really handy. Another thing that is very important to consider when you're traveling and staying at hostels is safety, especially keeping your valuables safe. So whenever I'm going to book a hostel, I make sure that on the website it says it has a locker. This for me is very important because whenever I'm leaving my things behind in the hostel room and I'm going away on, say, a day trip exploring the area, I want to have that peace of mind where my valuables are locked away safely and no one can get to them. Because I like to pack quite lightly, I oftentimes manage to fit my whole backpack into these lockers. I normally travel with a 35-liter backpack, which is actually not that big. However, if you travel with a bigger backpack, just ensuring that your valuables such as laptop, camera, money, or even passport are stored away safely in a locker. I personally like to leave my passport locked away in my hostel locker to avoid the risk of losing it or it getting damaged when I'm out and about traveling. For instance, on my first week traveling solo in Southeast Asia, I was carrying my passport in a money belt. However, I was out and about in Bangkok during the Songkran festival, which is Thai New Year, and they normally have huge water fights all over the country. And so I got buckets thrown at me in the street, and I was terrified for my passport, and it got slightly damaged, but thankfully it was okay to use. So after that, I did not take my passport again, especially if I was going to go to the beach or travel out and about. I wanted to make sure that my passport was going to be safe in my locker if I wasn't, you know, traveling from one country to another. Obviously you need your passport for that. Another thing to know when you are staying in hostels is to be respectful of others. Obviously it can be hard to coexist with so many people in one room, especially with regards to noise and just disruptions in general. I was staying in a hostel in Vietnam and had put my phone in my locker, locked it away, and went to take a shower. I didn't realize that one of my alarms was still on my phone, and so it was going off in the morning, and a lot of people gather around my locker wondering, like, can we open this? Like, this won't stop going off. And I came back from my shower horrified, thinking, oh my god, I can't believe I woke all of these people up. So I learned from my lesson, and definitely make sure that you don't have alarms going off while you're not in the room. Or another thing, if you're putting on an alarm in the morning, that's fine, but make sure that you wake up for it. Don't keep snoozing and waking up everyone around you. Just common decency, things like that are very important when staying in hostels. Something else that I think is very important is if you are planning on waking up early, say you have a early flight to catch, or you have a really early tour that you're going to go on, or simply want to wake up to watch a beautiful sunrise in the morning, make sure that you are not being very noisy in the morning and don't wake people up. What I like to do is prepare all of my clothes or a day pack the day before, so that I can quickly grab all of this stuff, get ready in the bathroom, and be as quiet as possible in the morning so that I don't wake other people up. So in general, all of these tips are a bit of common sense. Just make sure that, you know, you're being nice to others. You wouldn't want to be disturbed when you're sleeping there as well. So what you want to do before booking your hostel is go online and look at different booking engines such as booking.com, Hostelworld, and many others that are out there. I personally really like using booking.com because it enables you to oftentimes have free cancellation, so that if you change your mind, you're not charged if you cancel, you know, a day or two in advance. It's also really good because it shows you all of the different facilities that are available in the hostels that you're looking to book. Things that you may want to look for are, does the hostel provide Wi-Fi? Does it have any additional charges? Sometimes hostels charge you extra for towels or even bed sheets, and I personally like to stay away from those if I can, just because I don't want to be spending extra money on all of these things that are oftentimes already included in many other hostels. Some hostels even provide free breakfast. This is one of my favorite things because you can just wake up in the morning, go downstairs and get breakfast, and then you don't have to worry that in the morning. I'm someone who needs to have a big breakfast in the morning in order to function, and therefore that is ideal for me. To end this video, I want to list some of my must-haves or must-brings to a hostel. One of the first things that you should definitely bring is an eye mask. And if you're wanting to go to bed early, or if you're just wanting to get a deep sleep, it's really nice to have an eye mask so that the switching on and off of the lights doesn't bother you much. Another thing that can be really handy is bringing earplugs. I've actually never used earplugs in hostels. I've never had the need to, but I always brought them with me just in case. They don't take a lot of space in my backpack, and it's good to have in case there's someone snoring really loudly in the bed next to you, and that way you can get a better sleep. Something else that's really nice to bring is a pair of flip-flops. For your own sake, you want to wear flip-flops to the shower so that you don't catch any nasty fungi. Another thing is microfiber towel. So I actually don't own a microfiber towel, but I recommend you get one anyway. I know I definitely need to get one. I did meet a lot of travelers with one, and I think it's the best invention. It's basically a towel that dries off really quickly. Many hostels actually provide you with towels, but if they don't, it's good to have a microfiber towel because that means that you won't have to wait ages for it to dry, and you can carry it with you. It's really lightweight and it's nice if you're backpacking. But as I mentioned earlier about the importance of finding a hostel with a locker, make sure that you bring a padlock with you and you can lock your stuff away. This is something that I wish I'd known the first time I traveled solo. My first time staying in a hostel on my own, I didn't have a padlock and I genuinely left all of my valuables in my bag laying on the floor. And looking back, that terrifies me because anyone could have taken my passport, my wallet, and I could have been left with nothing. I was in another country, in another continent, and that would have been a big problem for me. So don't make the same mistake. Bring a padlock with you and lock your valuables away. So that is all I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I'd love to hear about all of your hostel traveling experiences in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.